see that because there's too many of them that just don't have the maturity to deal with
Just
it.
plain around, you know.
So I just thought, as much as it would be nice to do that, I just wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't.
Okay, we are on. You don't have to stop talking, but we're on.
We're on. Yeah. We're on. Time for me to shut up.
It's good to be back this morning, and it's a little bit of a change as far as time zone. We went back 1 hour, and I knew when we went back an hour, it was going to throw a lot of you overseas into the middle of the night. So we moved our hours forward. For the winter, we'll stay at 10 a.m. every weekend, and then when the time changes back, maybe we'll go back. It's just up to. I don't mind doing the 10 a.m.
I don't mind. That's good.
So
That's good.
it gets us where we got a little more time on the back end to do things.
A little longer nap in the afternoon.
Yeah, there you go. So it's good to be here, and we've been talking. Friday night we had our first. If you want to read that just for a second, unless you read last night.
I read a lot of
I put
those, and
most of
I
it.
see you pretty much got the same thing right there.
Yeah. And we've been talking on a lot of things. On Friday night, we discussed transformation pretty much. And is Friday nights okay with you?
Yeah.
We'll do it again this Friday night at 8 p.m., which will, Eastern Time Zone, Friday night, 8 p.m. So we were discussing a lot about transformation, and it was brought up about the book of Revelation and a concept that I'd had about it and some things that I had taught on it. And so Brother Daniel asked some questions about it, and then I really got a lot of email from people on Messenger and on email saying, Brother Parnell, please take the time to go over what you were talking about, the cycles of the book of Revelation. And there were so many people that were asking that I thought, well, I'll do that. It'll probably take a couple of services. I say services, a couple of fellowships together to do that. And but I will. I want to read something so that you get where I'm coming from when I say that the 7 church ages were the woman, the expression of the female for those 7 church ages. And if you go back into the time of Moses, he had a people that he called out of Egypt, and that's the first place you hear the word church. They were called the church in the wilderness, and the word church means called out. And so Moses took them out, and of course, he marched around 7 mountains in those times. In that time, he was in the wilderness, and I can't name them all right now. I used to be able to, but he marched around 7 mountains, and he set up 7 different types of sacrifices, and he done all kinds of different things: the meal offering, and the drink offering, and the bullock, and the lamb, and there were 7 different types of offering. He marched around 7. It was all about the church. And so then we come over, and it was just a cycle or a symbol of what was coming after Christ, from the day of Pentecost to the time that the Son of Man would come on the scene again. So there was a time frame in there. And it was 7 church ages long. We know that now. We can go back through and we can see them. And so when I talk about the book of Revelations, I'm going to read 2 scriptures. When I talk about it, I think of it totally as the woman. And listen to me. This book of Revelations is a lot of people are looking for some horrible things to happen and everything else. This book of Revelations is over. It's finished.
Yeah.
It's done. What we're going to do is just go through what has already happened for a few of the fellowships and help you to understand. I thought about the new people that are coming in by the thousands right now as far as coming into this understanding. And they're writing me all the time, and I thought, well, this will really help them too. So I want to read out of the book of Ephesians, the 5th chapter, and I'm going to personalize a couple of things that Paul said. And he talks in the 5th chapter and the 24th verse, and he said, therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. So you see that Paul had the revelation that the church was a woman. As the church is subject to Christ, woman subject to husband. Now let's go on further. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of the water by the word. That's exactly what happened to us through 7 church ages. We were sanctified, we were justified, we were cleansed by the washing of the water of the word. And it says that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of the water by the word, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. So there would come a time when the church would come through its justification, come through its sanctification, come through its gifts, come through its marriage, come through its wedding supper, come through everything, and then it will be cleansed and washed and clean and holy and pure. And he relates the woman and the church as the same thing. Now, so watch Paul take it into micro. He takes it into a personal revelation. Now, he's not talking about a husband standing here and a wife standing here. He's not talking about that anymore when I start this verse. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. He that loveth his own body loveth himself. That's what Paul is saying. For no man ever hated his own flesh, but nourisheth and cherisheth it, even as the Lord the church. So he's taking it into a personal revelation to where, listen, for we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother. Let me say it like this. For this cause shall a man leave the pillar of fire and the New Jerusalem and come here and put on flesh, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. We shall leave the pillar of fire, leave the theophany civilization, leave the spoken word, and come into humanity, and the two shall become one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. So Paul goes into a working within you as one, and of course a husband and a wife out here, like Daniel and Connie, Alan and Aubrey, Patty and I, that is a symbol, is what that is. And so Paul makes that very clear, that the church is a woman. Now I want to come over here into Revelation, the 22nd chapter, and John is talking. And John makes this statement. I'm just going to read one here. 22:16. I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and the morning star. So, what we are reading about when we read the book of Revelations, if you listen to what that said, I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify to you of these things in the churches. It's not in the nations. It's not in the United States. It's not where, you say anywhere. It's in the church. It's a spiritual thing. So when we talk about the book of Revelations, we're talking about the church. Now, I will say this right away. We are not a church. We already been called out. We already have come through the washing of the water by the word. We got justified. We got sanctified. We come through the washing of the water of the word. We've done all those things, and the church is finished. She was presented on that day in 1963 at the opening of the seals. She was presented. William Branham stood behind the pulpit and began to sing, "Come and dine, the Master calleth, come and dine. You may feast at Jesus' table all the time." He said, look at that. That's what's happening today. We were already in the wedding supper. We were already eating. We were already doing all those things. He said that Jesus Christ was to be set up as the Son of Man. Psalms 27 said that his head would be lifted up, and there we see his head over Sunset Mountain. And the Son of Man was to be lifted up at that time. And when we read about that, we see that the Son of Man was lifted up. Everything happened exactly the way he said in Matthew 24. We came through the wars, rumors of wars. We fought one another. We had all kinds of spiritual things against one another. We set up dogmas, creeds, religions, everything under the sun, everything going on in the church. The Battle of Armageddon was striking. We were in the message, but every church had something different. Every one of us hated one another because of the way we dressed, the way we walked, the way we acted, the way we talked. Didn't quote enough, didn't live holy enough. It was the Battle of Armageddon. It was going on because the battle is in the church. The battle is not about Putin and Trump. The battle's not about cannonballs and fodder. The battle is about doctrines. And where do you get this from, Brother Parnell? Read the fourth seal. William Branham said the battle is in the church. And the battle of Armageddon, he said, started in heaven and ends up in the church. So that's where it's at. And so now we have come through that battle. And we've come to a time to where we're past all the washing of the water. We're past the church. We are past the book of Revelation. Oh no, there's still got to be monsters coming on the earth. There's still got to be scorpions stinging people. There's still got... If you missed it, if you're thinking that, it's already happened. The last messenger came, and William Branham, the last messenger, said that the last messenger was to rapture the church with his message. He did it. Don't think that there's going to be some great big rapture going on. We've been raptured, and it's happened already. So we see this. We moved through the church. We got outside the church. We're outside the camp now. We're beyond the church. And there is an angel here, Revelation 22:16. There will be an angel that will come and testify of all the things in the churches. And here we are this morning testifying of all these things in the churches. Not in the nations, not in the world, not in this, it's in the church. That's where it's all at. And the church has been raptured beyond being a church. It's not a church anymore. We're not called out. We went to Sunset Mountain and we've been sent back into the world from there. And we came back into the world to do the work of setting up a new kingdom right here. So I want to read some things and kind of talk about it as we go. When we look at cycles, which the book of Revelations is a cycle. It is one cycle shown in 6 different ways. And I will get into that in just a minute. But when we look at cycles, we find it is the way in which we move as individuals, as groups, And in spirituality, we're always in cycles. You're in an up cycle, you're in a down cycle. You're in a cycle of revelation, you're in a cycle of resting. You're in a cycle. We just keep moving in cycles, and those cycles are simultaneous. As an individual, you move through many cycles in a day. As a group sitting in Yellow Springs, Ohio, we may move through several cycles in a week. As a people across the world, not looking at individuals anymore, not looking at a small local group, but looking as a people across the world, there's cycles going on that we all kind of work ourselves together through, and we look at those, and it has to do with the removal of cultism, the removal of brainwashing, all the things we've been talking about. These things are moving in cycles all around us and in us every single day. So it happens to individuals, groups, and spirituality across the world. All dimensions spirally rotate. So you come back around. Here we are right back on the book of Revelation, spirally rotating. But I guarantee you, for this couple of fellowships, you're going to find out a lot more about Revelation than you ever knew. Because every time you come in a spiral, you come back around and you find more. You never come back to the original point of origin. The spiral keeps you moving forward. And you keep moving, you keep moving, you keep moving forward, and never come back to the original point of origin, but you move and pass back through all of that knowledge with so much more experience that the knowledge looks completely different. So we pass through all dimensions, spirally rotate, passing through one another continually in cycles. We are the dimensions. And we are constantly touching one another. I'm not necessarily talking about this kind of touch. I'm talking about spiritually, in the mind, in the heart. We're constantly touching one another through the vibrational waves that's going on. We have life cycles. Think about these cycles. We have life cycles, death cycles, growth cycles, seasonal cycles, solar cycles, zodiac cycles, earthly cycles, human cycles, gender cycles, chakra cycles, botany cycles, animal cycles, individual cycles. There's just an endless number. Cycles going on all the time. Larger cycles are dispensations. They may last 2,000 years like the church ages did. They may last 50 years like the Third Testament did. They may last, whatever it is, it's a larger cycle. And it's moving a larger mass of people across the dimension into something else. And then you have your individual cycles. The lady goes through one every 28 days. The people in a local area go through cycles together. You just keep going on and on and on. So there's individuals, there's groups, and there is the spirituality. When you're thinking in cycles, you need to think in rotation, spiral, circular. It's not linear. And so you're going to come back around close to the same thing again, but with more knowledge, more understanding of the knowledge you already have. And so you see that you come circular. It's not a linear or a straight line. You all know this. Mathematically, there is no such thing as a straight line.
Right.
Somewhere it's going to bend. Somewhere it's going to begin to curve, because everything is in a spiral. Everything is in a circular motion. And there's no such thing as a straight line. It will begin to bow or bend after a while, if you're talking naturally, circling back to its origin. All things come back to themselves. Spiritually, not necessarily at the same point of origin. So, let me put it like this. William Branham's talking in the third Exodus. He makes a statement. He's talking about Luther. And he's talking about Luther's message of justification. Then there's this little blurt comes out of his mouth. This is what the bride is, justification is what the bride's coming out under now. When I read it, I thought, huh? I thought it would come out of justification under Luther, but he says she's just now being pulled out under justification. So it is a spiral cycle. William Branham's message brought a realer, more in-depth, true justification than Luther's did. And they spiraled back. It did not go back to the original origin. He did not try to preach what Luther preached. He did not try to do the things Luther did. He didn't protest the Catholic Church and he didn't protest the Protestant Church and try to start another church or anything. None of those things happen because it doesn't go back to the absolute point. It spirals around and keeps going. So we see this now. We'll return to Genesis several times. Genesis just means new beginnings. We've returned to Genesis several times, but in spiral motion. We didn't go back and live in a Garden of Eden naked and walk around and eat the fruits, and we didn't do any of that. But we have gone back to Genesis, or back to a new beginning. In a spiral motion, gaining new things at every pass. We come back around. This is the way that John the Revelator wrote the book of Revelation. It's just like Pentecost. The prophet told us, he said that Pentecost was the original, and everybody screams, go back to the original, go back to the original, go back to Pentecost. But William Branham tells us at the end of his message, and it was one of his final messages when he was down at Jack Moore's place. I can't remember which message it was in, but he says that the Pentecostal message will not work today. And he wasn't talking about 1906 Pentecost. He was talking about Pentecost. You cannot go back there. You will not go back there. And if you think you're going to have an original message that takes you back to Pentecost, you have missed it again. You only rotate spirally. You don't go back to the original origin. But we came to another Pentecost down the spiral with much more understanding than what those brethren had at that time. So we see this happening. We move through the spiral, passing through in spiral motion, passing back through time again and again with a different twist. There's something different about it. There's a greater understanding. There's a greater revelation. And you know what revelation means. When something has been revealed, it's over.
It's finished. Yep.
The veil has been pulled off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Son of Man was revealed. Someone said, oh, we're waiting on the Son of Man. The Son of Man is revealed. It's over. 3.5 years in Jesus' day, 3.5 years in William Branham's day. And we'll get into that. Probably not this service or this fellowship, but in one of them, we'll look what took place at the change, the events that brought us over here. Everything from Moses and Elijah to Israel, to the ending of Israel, to all those things. We'll look at it. So we see, when you realize the book of Revelation is about one person, keep that in mind. You read about dragons, you read about serpents, you read about women. You see one woman in all of her glory with 12 crowns, and you see another woman that's riding on a horse arrayed in purple and drinking the blood of the saints. And you see all of these things, and you're reading about it, and you see scorpions, and you see bottomless pits, and you see plagues dropping out everywhere, and you read about trumpets blowing, and as you're going through all that, because it's all symbol form, it takes the spirit of understanding, and it takes leadership that the Spirit has set in place to bring a whole lot of that out. And a lot of people don't like that, but the Spirit does have a man. There's a man in every age to bring these things out further. Revelation 22:16, I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify of these things in the churches. You say, that was William Branham, Brother Parnell. I beg your pardon. He didn't say those things were in the church. He said that Revelation 13 was America. Revelation 17 was the Babylonian Roman Catholic Church. Revelations 19, he just went on, and he placed it all out here in the nations everywhere. And he had certain groups and certain people, and Israel being the most blessed nation in all the earth. And for his age and time, every bit of that was good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. He was a prophet. But he was the prophet to the last church age. Mm-hmm. So he was still dealing with all of these national world events and presidents and everything else he was dealing with. So he didn't come and tell us all of these things in the book of Revelation are just the church. He didn't tell us that. Mm-hmm. He didn't show us that. But we have an angel here. You say, are you talking about yourself, Brother Parnell? I believe the angel is the Spirit of Christ among us, and I believe that I am one of them that is opening up many of those things. We realize the book of Revelation is about one person, Jesus Christ, which is us. In the female attribute, the church, I read it to you in the book of Ephesians, is the female attribute of Christ. So we see that this book of Revelations is about one person, Jesus Christ, and his female attribute. I don't even think you can call it his. You know, the Spirit is not a male or a female. The Spirit, those are just attributes of it. I remember one time I was preaching and I called it a thing. This thing's something else.
You call it a holy thing or something like that?
Yeah, and this guy got really upset. You can't call Jesus, the Holy Spirit, a thing. You know, and he was really upset. So I said, well, I read in the book of Luke where Luke said, you know, that holy thing was born. He called it a thing, so I'm sorry, but I don't know what else to really call it, because it's not a male, it's not a he,
Right.
It's not a female, it's not a he. We'll say he, you know, but it's not a he. It's it's a thing. It has all the attributes within it. So we have this now. The book becomes, if you'll realize it's just one person, and all of these things are that one person in the female attribute. And Christ is spiraling, the spiral I told you about. Christ is spiraling and experiencing every facet of the woman. And the book becomes fascinating and full of wonder and admiration and excitement and trauma and even shock, as to the depths and the extremes that Christ goes into to understand the female nature that he had in him, the attribute of a woman. It goes into amazing things in that book of Revelation, bringing out and showing the attribute of a woman. In Revelation, all of the titles, the beast, the riders, the angels, the symbols of all sorts of those things are Christ hidden behind the mask of time and elements, spiraling through time, putting on elements. He put on the elements, and the Roman Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, the Paul, Irenaeus, Martin, Columba, Luther, Wesley, Branham. It was all the church, and it was all Christ. Every bit of it was Christ bringing out the woman attribute. So we see that Christ is hidden behind the mask of time and elements. Solomon was a perfect type of Christ. Christ sought to know every single character and attribute of a woman to gain for him, and Solomon did the same thing. He gained 1,000 wives and even more concubines. Solomon had a desire to find out every attribute, every character, and everything about a woman. It was in him. It was in him. He was a type of that thing. And so he went through all of that. trying to understand the female attribute. All the slaughterings, all the killings, all the whoredom, the woman in the great whore written across her forehead. Listen to me, don't get too afraid of it. It was all Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Every bit of it was Christ. Christ, when we look at the book of Revelation and personalize it in its spiral cycles, passing through you time and again. It's moving through you. You were that beautiful woman with the 12 crowns, and you were that whore written across your forehead. It's Christ passing through you. And you have at some point in your life displayed every one of those things. You have been a scorpion stinging people. You have been a messenger bringing a message to people. You have been a candle. You have been sealed. You have been open. You have been a trumpet sounding out. You have all of these symbols were us sounding out throughout the ages. We'll get into that. Let's look at the book of Revelation and personalize it in spiral cycles, passing through you time and again. Each of these is a cycle spiraling back and emphasizing a different part of the female attribute. I'm going to just read through 6 sections of the book of Revelation. And it's going to really shorten the book for you when you think about it.
Right.
We read 22 chapters. And we say, wow, so much is going on. I cannot figure out all this with all of these animals and demons coming out of pits. And wow, it's just amazing to me. And no man can understand this. Well, the book of Revelations has 6 sections. First section, remember this, chapter 1 through 4. And it is the candles. You remember how the Israelites, they set up their I forget what it's called even, but there's 7 candles on it.
Yes.
And it was those 7 candles or 7 lights. And the first 4 chapters is how Christ walked through the midst of those candles. Then it ends up at the end of the 4th chapter, and I'll come back to this, but I want to go through these first. You come to the 5th chapter. The 5th chapter goes right back to the 1st chapter. The 1st chapter and the 5th chapter are very similar, and they go right back. And what is it? It is the seals. Book in the right hand of him that sits on the throne, him that sat on the throne and comes and walks in the midst of the church ages. Same thing. It goes back to the origin again. 5 through 7 is the seals. If you want to give it a caption, 1 through 4 was the candles. 5 through 7 is the seals. And there's all sorts of things under those seals. William Branham took a whole week to talk on those seals. Clarence Larkin drew diagrams, dispensations, everything else under those seals. Everybody attacked those seals in some way to try to bring them out. So that's 5 through 7. When you come to the 8th chapter, it starts over. They're in heaven. There's 7 angels preparing to sound, and they have censers in their hands. They're going to cast fire into the earth. And it's the same thing you find in the 1st chapter or in the 5th chapter. And so it starts, and chapter 8 through 11 is the caption, if you want to call it something, is the trumpets. The trumpets are sounding, and so there are many, many things that come out under the trumpets. You find all sorts of things about the messengers, about the spirit that's moving in the ages, and all these kinds of things you'll find under the trumpets. And then you come to, that's 8 through 11. Then you come to chapter 12 through 14. You remember back in Revelations 10 and 11, there was a messenger that sounded out, and 7 thunders came out. So Revelations 12 through 14 is those thunders. And so 12 through 14 brings out those thunders. Then you come to Revelations 15. 15 through 18, what happens? You come right back to Revelations 1, Revelations 5, Revelations 8, Revelations 12, Revelations 15. 7 angels getting ready to bring plagues into the earth. And these 7 angels are the temple of the Lord is opened, and smoke is rising out of the temple, and they're getting ready to come out into the earth. The same thing you find in those other beginnings. And 15 through 18 are those plagues, if you want to call it a caption. So you have candles, seals, trumpets, thunders, and plagues. And it's all written in 4 chapters. Although you go through 18 chapters, it's all written just 5 different ways of looking at it right there in the book of Revelations, and it's really 3 to 4 chapters long. John just made it out so we could look at it as candles, and then look at it as seals, and then look at it as trumpets, and then look at it as plagues, as thunders, and then plagues. We see all this, and we had it all mixed together. It said, oh my God, what a horrible mess going on in the earth, because we couldn't understand it. So then 19 through 22, new heaven and new earth, or what I have termed the regeneration. Once you come through all the candles, seals, trumpets, thunders, plagues, there's got to be a regeneration.
Right.
There's a destruction and a change. There's a death and a burial. There's got to be a regeneration, a resurrection. And 19 through 22 is that regeneration or resurrection into new heaven and new earth. Remember, candles, seals, trumpets, thunders, plagues, and the regeneration. The chapters, again, 1 through 4 is the candles, 5 through 7 is the seals, 8 through 11 is the trumpets, 12 through 14 is the thunders, 15 through 18 is the plagues, and then 19 through 22 brings a regeneration and restores or brings us back to the origin. And that finishes up the church. That finishes up the Bible. It seals it up. It puts it away. And we have come to start a brand new cycle. William Branham told us that. He said that in the first seal, he said, these seals, all of these things, he said, all these messengers, he said, they have a message until you come to the last one. And he said, it changes. It's not the same anymore. Well, we come up to the last messenger. He finished his message, and it has changed. It is not the same anymore. We've come outside the church, and now we, as a people who's no longer a church, but we are a people who are under oneness, who are in love divine, who are living on the farm, who are doing all of these things. We understand things in a totally different way. We looked at the whole world and realized that it is our parish, it is our temple, it is ours. This earth is ours. Everything about it is ours. We've created it. We see the earth as it is, and we see ourselves as we are. We've come to where we have a whole new understanding of ourselves. We've come to where we understand the cycles all in us, the death, the burial, the resurrection. We see all of those cycles, the seasons, the changes, the growth. We see everything. I am the candles. I am lit up, and Christ is moving through me. I am the seals opened up for you to see all the secrets and the mysteries. I am the trumpets sounding out. The trumpets was to denote that all of Israel, the trumpets were blown for what reason? To move them somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And we have had our trumpets blown, and we have moved into another position. The thunders, personal mysteries of mine and yours that we understand ourselves with. And the plagues are all of those things that come into the into the individual and into the earth in such a way that it kills out everything that we don't need. That's what a plague is for. It kills out everything that we don't need. And we wonder why, if we're such a spiritual people, do we need plagues? Because you haven't dropped off those church age things yet. You won't leave them alone. You keep bringing men up. I see it on Facebook all the time. You'll bring men up and you'll try to holy eyes that man. And you try to make him the prophet of all prophets. And you try to do this and that. We have not turned loose of church age mentality enough. So plagues have to drop. Plagues are not to take people into hell and burn them. Plagues are to cleanse the earth. Plagues are to cleanse your mind with. Plagues are to cleanse your heart with. Plagues are to cleanse those things. They're vials. They are poison. You know what's in a vial? It's poison. And they take that poison and they make vaccines. And they take that antibiotic and they shoot it into your body to get rid of the pneumonia, to get rid of the asthma, to get rid of the polio, to get rid of the... Plagues are here to cleanse us. That's what plagues are about. So we see that, and we see many plagues happening in the earth today as a whole. And you say, what does that signify, Brother Parnell? Us being cleansed. Us being cleansed of all of these things that we have in us that we don't need anymore. And we're not willing to let them go. We want to have a church. When we're not a church, we want to have a hierarchy when there is no hierarchy left. We want to have all of these things. We want to have them. And certain ones want to be the spiritual ones, the gurus, and everything else. And that's done. Mm-hmm. That's over with. So we're going to come back to these, but all of these are about us. Remember, I kept trying to wake peoples and ministries to this concept. You remember years ago I preached it. Mm-hmm. I brought it out. I tried to bring it. Now I'm coming back in a spiral and I see so much more in it than I did then. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable amount of more information, understanding, and experience. Remember, I kept trying to wake peoples and ministries to this concept to realize the oneness of all in all. The all, you know what that means? The thing that I talked about, that holy thing, the all, is in all. Mm-hmm. It's not in some, it's not in part of us, it's not in a group, it's in all of us. Yeah. It's in the animals out there, it's in the trees out there, it's in the dog that just barked, it's in everything. Right. It moves, and this holy thing is us. Mm-hmm. And yes, I put on a piece of flesh to kind of manifest myself. And Alan did too, and you did too. But the holy thing is us. Mm-hmm. So we see this. It seemed people weren't hearing it at the time. Let's say it again. All of the things you read in the book of Revelations are things happening in the churches. Are we a church? No. Nope. So it's not happening anymore for us. What I'm talking to you about is history, and we've moved into a brand new cycle, and we're going through a transition period where the Spirit is dropping plagues into us to cleanse us of all that old. And I've cleansed myself of religion. I've cleansed myself of church. I've cleansed myself of politics. I've cleansed myself of all of these things. And I did it through plagues, through vials, through poisons. That's what plagues are. They're poison. I used poison. I mixed it together, and I give myself a shot. And I killed that part of me. I killed myself wanting to go out here and live after the church ages. I killed myself wanting to go out here and prove I'm something by good living. I shot antibiotics in me. You know what an antibiotic is? It is a live germ of the disease going in you. Whether it's fabricated or whether it's a real thing. It's shot into you, and your body builds an immune system against that one little germ that they shot into you. And you kill that germ, and from then on, any other germ like it that comes into your body, you kill it. Maybe that's why you hear us. One person wrote me and said, Brother Parnell, I think you've brought out enough about leaving religion and all these things. You've really brought out so much about it, and you talk about it a lot. Maybe that's why. Because it keeps wanting to come up. That germ that I shot into me, that antibiotic, and my body become immune to it, that daggone thing keeps coming back. And it keeps wanting to spread itself throughout my body. So I keep shooting myself. I keep killing it. My immune system keeps waking up and keeps killing it and pushing it out of the system. And I hope it's helping you. So we see that it all happened in the churches. Now, we're past looking at it as the Church of the Catholics, the Pope, the Church of the Protestants, the Methodists, the Baptists, the Pentecost, the 900 and something organizations. We're past we're past all of that now. We're beyond all of that. I'm not looking at the Catholic Church as the Antichrist. I'm not looking at the Protestant Church as the one that gives worship unto the Antichrist. I'm not looking at any of that. That's not it anymore. You're missing the boat. That was the church ages. It all ended in 1963 at the opening of the seals, and we moved into a new day. Personalize the writings now. If you're going to read the book of Revelations, think about what it is inside you. Think about micro. Go inward. Stop looking at churches. Stop looking at popes. Stop looking at nations. Stop thinking of the great bear is Russia, the eagle is America, and on and on and on. Lord have mercy. We preached on it for hundreds of years, and we died with it. Thank the Spirit. He had a resurrection and a regeneration coming.
Right.
Or we'd have been dead in total darkness. That's the way the ages ended up, in total darkness in the Laodicean church age. And we would still be in it had it not been for the Spirit waking us up to a regeneration in us. Personalize the writings now. Any book you read in the Bible, it's finished. Oh, but I see Leviathans coming, Isaiah said, and they're going to be great monsters in the sea. And there's going to be this. It's finished. It's done. All of that out here is over. What's going on now, if there's a monster, it's inside you. If there's a God, all of these things, titles of all these beasts, if there's riders, they are inside you. If there's Antichrist, it's inside you. Personalize all the writings. If there is a Christ, it's you. All of these things are you. Personalize the writings, and you'll clearly see the 6 cycles in you. You are the temple. You are all of those things. There's an angel sitting here. I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star. The angel right now is talking to you. You say, he's making himself Revelations 22 and 16. Yeah. And you want to be that? Do you want to be that too? Do you want to be that too? You can be that too.
Right.
I am Revelations 22 and 16, walking in the earth. And you can do that too. And every one of you can be that too. I'm not making myself something special above everybody else. I'm telling you, we can do this together. We are the revelation of, we are the further movement of We have extended out beyond the church ages, and we are the angel after the churches, expressing and bringing to pass and showing all the things that went on in the church and moving on to something new.
Right.
Close a book up when it's finished. When you're done reading a book, when you're done reading whatever the book might be, Prince of the House of David or whatever book you read, you know what you do? You come to the, and on the last page it says, the end. And you close that book up. You ever watch the old westerns? Every one of them. Well, there went that guy riding out into the sunset and the big words come across, the end.
Yeah.
Well, we come to the end. It's finished. It's over. The church ages are done. If you read this book, read it in a personalized manner. Read it in a way that every single one of those beings that were written about and all of those symbols, they're all in you. Living in you, walking in you. Don't let people try to scare you by using the book of Revelation. Telling you these horrible things. You know, just yesterday, I believe it was, a brother out of Africa, Brother Patrick Camara. Everybody's seen what I wrote him, so I'm not worried about saying his name. He writes this big, huge, 2-3 page thing about next week is the starting of the Third World War. And then boom, boom, he writes this prophecy, this prophecy, this prophecy, this quote, this quote, this quote, this scripture, this scripture, this scripture. It's going to go on next week. We're at the end. And so I just couldn't take it. I sat down and I wrote, because I know Patrick. I've met him. I've worked with him in Uganda. I wrote him, I said, dear Brother Patrick, listen to me. Next week, when these things don't happen, what are you going to do? You have put yourself in such a position. 5 years from now, when they haven't happened, what are you going to do? 10 years from now, when they haven't happened, what are you going to do? Are you going to try to keep saying it's going to, what are you going to do? You need to move out of all that old stuff. Because I know he reads my stuff. You need to move out of that and come into something new. Come into something that will take you beyond all of that condemnation, fear, and just, it'll move you out of it. Of course, I didn't see any response back. But that's what people do. Oh, back during the election, Donald Trump, the video is still out there. Probably 6 months before the election, I said, Donald Trump, people hate him. They're trying their best to defeat him. They're trying their best to, but he's going into the office. Because I could see by revelation that he was going into the office. And you know what? Everybody out there just about took the quote about Hillary. It wasn't about Hillary. But William Branham's quote about a woman going in the White House. Hillary's the one. Hillary's the one. Thus, someone said, thus saith the Lord. Hillary is the one. And just on and on and on. And I just watched it and I thought, they just never let go. They never let loose. They don't understand that that was all in the churches. It's finished. It's over. It's done. And so, don't let people scare you by using the book of Revelation. And that's what the brother was doing. Telling you these horrible things. And monsters and devils and demons are coming into the earth. And everything will be destroyed or annihilated. It just isn't true. These things have been in the churches for the last 2,000 years. If you read the fourth seal, I normally don't point you back to William Branham very much anymore. But I want to tell you, if you'll just read the fourth seal and go to the end of the message, maybe the last 10 page, I think it's like page 439 to 449, somewhere in there. But anyway, he starts talking about the battle of Armageddon in the fourth seal. And he says the battle is over dogma and creed and all of these things. Well, where's the dogma and the creed at? Is in the church. And everybody's looking for a battle of Armageddon out here. It was in the church. And the battle was going on in William Branham's life, trying to bring people to the revelation of Jesus Christ for their day. And that battle is over. We've come to it. We understand who we are. These things have been in the churches for the last 2,000 years, and John just wrote about it in 6 cycles. Revelation is not really 22 chapters long. It is about 3 or 4 chapters long at the most. But what we do is we continually try to figure out, mix it all up when John was writing it in cycles. Now, as we go back here and we look at these cycles, 1 through 4, chapter 1 through 4, we find that John is writing about the Son of Man coming into the earth, which Jesus Christ was, and he sets his feet in the earth, and he brings forth 7 candles, which are the 7 messengers, which are the 7 churches. The stars are the messengers, the candles are the churches, on and on and on. But it's a lighting of the churches, and that happened. So how do we apply that scripture today? It's finished, it's happened, and it's done. And if you're going to read it, you have to apply it to yourself.
That's right.
You have cycles inside you.
Yes.
And you have cycles of light, and you have cycles of darkness. If you read that first 4 chapters, you will find out that the Son of Man went into the depths of Satan. You do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It says in the Pergamus church age, he went into the very depths of Satan. It says in the first church age, he left his first love. How many times have you left your first love? And you have to swing right back around and say, wait a minute, where I'm going, this horse is dying. I got to come back here and get on the right path again. And how many times have we done it? You come to the second church age, it's bitterness, Smyrna. You come to the third church age, it's the very depths of Satan. You come to the fourth church age, and it's Columba, and it is a time where he says, if you can just endure to the end. And how many times have you felt that way? If I can just endure to the end. Stop applying it to something out here and apply it to inside.
Yes.
You have 7 candles, chakra. Mm-hmm. Inside you have 7 lights, and those 7 lights move throughout your life to bring out different things in your body. Everything from healing to cleansing to education to information to knowledge. It works everything from the brain right on down to the feet. It's a spiritual chakra of 7 lights, and these 7 candles are the type of it. And it's the Son of Man. It's the serpent wrapped around the pole being from the neck down to the pelvis. You've got your spine. It's the pole. The serpent's wrapped around it, and it brings healing throughout the body. The 7 lights go from, you know where they start at. They start at the genital. They move on up to the belly button area. They move on up to the chest. They move to all those lights are moving in you. It is the Urim and Thummim of the Old Testament. The lights lighting up and lighting up. So they had it in the Old Testament in a form. They had it in the church ages in a form. Now, the angel's here to testify to you all those things were in the church. Don't worry about those things. Now it's all personalized in you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is what's going on inside you. And those seals. You remember there were 7 seals? How many horse riders were there? 1.
Yeah.
Riding the 4 horses. Right. And it was white, it was red, it was black, and it was pale. And these 4 horse riders, you say, I think of them as Satan going out and battling the church and battling. You better get that out of your mind. You'll never understand the oneness of you if you don't get that out of your mind. Think about 4 horse riders, or the 4 horses, the rider that James talked about. James said a man is tempted, number 1, white horse, and drawn away his own lust, number 2, red horse. And when lust is conceived, it brings forth sin, number 3, black horse. And when sin is finished, it brings forth death, number 4, pale horse. What did James do? He took the seals and he put them inside a man. Mm-hmm. And you go through that all the time. I have that horse that rides in me and it takes off after something, and before long I find out it's not where I want to go. And what do? I bring that horse to its death, and I turn around and I come back where I want to go. All of these things are inside of us. And we'll get into this a lot more. What are the last 3 seals? Those last 3 seals are spiritual. It's not horse riders. It is, here they came under the altar, 5th seal. They came to Moses and Elijah, 6th seal. They came to Christ in rest, regeneration, 7th seal. It's everything that went on out there is now going on in us. We have a spiritual happening. What do? Every time the white horse rider, which is Christ, takes you down a road, it's for your experience. And once you have experienced that, if you're out there and you don't like it, put a death to it and move back over here and start over.
Right.
And when you put a death to it, what do? You come under an altar. You begin to say, I'm sorry, I wish I hadn't went that way. I gotta change things here. I gotta do this and that. And you move out under the altar, and what do? You run into Moses and Elijah, or you are resurrected from the dead. That's what Moses and Elijah are for. And when you're resurrected from the dead, where do you go? Into regeneration, into rest. So the 7 seals are just all about death, burial, and resurrection. And they're all about what's happening inside you. And if you don't apply it that way, you'll miss it all, because all the other way is over. That was in the churches, and we're not a church anymore. 10:05. And I've got to think about the difference now, because we started at 10 o'clock. It's been an hour. The trumpets. What are the first 4 trumpets? It is the smoting of the elements. The same thing the first 4 seals were. Mm-hmm. The smoting of the elements, the earth, the sun, the air, the water. The smoting of all the elements. And those trumpets are a message to kill the horse rider. They smote that guy that takes off out there, which you do every day of your life, and you run a ring, and it smotes it, and it kills it. And and we'll get into that a little bit, because there's many things in it, but what are the next 3 trumpets? They are spiritual. And it is all about the church, the scorpions, all these things, the messenger of the last age, sounding forth. And it is spiritual happenings moving us into something else, exactly the way the trumpets were. And what are the thunders? I've always said the seals brought out the mysteries. The trumpets brought a message that judged and took out and cleansed out all the things that were in those seals that were iniquity, because you and I had iniquity in us. The trumpets were to cleanse the iniquity and to bring a message that would help us understand our iniquity and be able to evolve in the middle of that iniquity and not look at ourselves as lost and everything else. That's what the trumpets are. And the thunders are personal mysteries to you, to me. The thunders open us up, wake us up, make us who we are. The thunders, William Branham kept saying it, the thunders will wake up the bride. And everybody says, hallelujah. We woke up to the fact of the Roman Catholic Church, and we woke up to the fact of of the Protestant churches and all the whores and whoremongers running around out here, and I'm going to separate myself from them. I don't want nothing to do with all of this that's going on. Wait, that's a wake up. You know, that's misery. That's what that is. It's a wake up to you. Personal mysteries to you that you say, oh my, I am the Christ. I am this thing that was born, that's moving throughout the earth. I understand who I am. And I have in me candles, and I have darkness. I have light, I have iniquity, and I have righteousness. I have all of these things in me, but I am the Lamb's Book of Life. And I know how to overcome these things. And when I struggle and have trouble, no worries, we have eternity. And if I struggle through something and have to go through it a dozen times, so what? We have eternity, and I am the light. I am that I am, and I will take that iniquity and cleanse it and make it into something that I can use every day of my life. Make it pure, make it holy, the way Jesus took that body of iniquity on Calvary and resurrected it out of the tomb. That's what the thunders are all about. Understanding, taking in the personal mystery. And when you take in the personal mystery, you're going to find out that that mystery man that's sitting on the throne that was full of iniquity wasn't the devil out here, and it wasn't the Pope, it was you. Paul was writing about you in the book of Thessalonians. And when you find that out, what has to take place? The very next step, the plagues. You have to shoot yourself with antibiotics. You have to build an immunity system to that ego, to that type of structure, to that person that wants to sit on the throne and be a king and have leadership over everybody and have all of those things. We have to bring the plagues upon us. Which when you look at the plagues, the first 4 plagues were the smoting of the flesh again. Boils on them, and this on them, and that on them. It was the smoting of the flesh. The smoting of the man in 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, I believe, the man of sin. Smoting him. And you say, how do I do it, Brother Parnell? With the Christ that's in you. Mm-hmm. You begin to take that iniquity and you begin to purify it. And you begin to put it through a lake of fire. And you smote it, and you change it, and you take that thing, that process of the devil, and you make it pure as gold. Smiting it. And what is the pure as gold? The regeneration. So all this is a list, 4 chapters long, 6 different ways of how everything blends together inside you. And how everything inside you works as a horse rider running out and Christ combating that contrast. Christ is the horse rider that runs out there. He is the contrast. And Christ is the 4 life messengers, 4 death messengers. And those 4 death messengers are the white horse, red horse, black horse, pale horse. And those death messengers are the same guy that is the 4 life messengers. It's Christ. And the 4 life messengers being justification. You look at yourself in that condition and you justify yourself and you say, I never done it in the first place. And everybody says, you a liar, you a sinner, you're no good, you're filthy, I seen you. I never done it in the first place. Oh, you're married 3 times. You done it 3. You did this. You on and on and on and on. You crooked thing. You fraud. You spent 15 years in prison. You did this. You did that. I never done it in the first place. Life messengers, justification, sanctification, cleansing us of all that iniquity and everything that everybody, the accuser, is accusing of you. Continually cleansing it out. Sanctification. Baptism of the Holy Ghost, William Branham called it. I call it a refreshing or a pouring out of the Holy Spirit from within. By taking the iniquity and the man of iniquity and putting in his proper position, the flow of the Spirit is now able to move throughout you. And it's a baptism from the inside out. Mm-hmm. And then what was the fourth thing? The Word. And we all take that and we say, we got to be the Word. We got to be the Word. Yes, we do. The new Word that came through justification, sanctification, and a flowing of baptism from the inside out. And it ain't the original same Word. But we are the Word. Spiral never goes back to the same spot again. It never goes back to the same origin again. Yes, we are the Word. Yes, we've been regenerated. And yes, we are the Word walking in the earth. But not the Word that 99 and 9/10% of you people out there think. We are not this. It's over. We are not that Bible. We are beyond that. We are in another day, another age, and another time. And everything is flowing from the inside out now. Nothing out here worries us. Nothing out here means anything to us.
That's right.
We have this going on in our lives. Candles, seals, trumpets, thunders, plagues, regeneration. If you read that book, please personalize it, or you're just going to scare yourself to death. You're going to sit back and say, oh my. Now, you're going to have a God out there. You're going to have a devil out there. You're going to have intermission here. You're going to have recession over here. You're going to have scorpions and serpents and everything else waiting for you to backslide so they can come in and sting you. And you're going to have ants as tall as buildings crawling around all over the earth wanting to kill all of us and everything else. All it is what's inside you. And it's working in you. And it is iniquity, darkness. It is unknown things, darkness, and it is understanding when we enter into those things and we turn the light onto it and we transform it, we change it, and we evolve it to make it a tool for us to understand and use for the rest of eternity throughout more and more and more. That's what these are about. It's not outward things anymore. It's inward. These outward things are what we're going to enjoy as we get this inward man where he should be. And when we get this inward man where he should be, these outward things will continue to progress until we'll be able to enjoy them without all of this hierarchy, without all these boundaries of geographical nations. It's coming a time when it will be that. And humanity will take care of itself. We are moving to that time.
That's right.
When, Brother Parnell? We're still in the zodiac. We're still in the imprinting of all of those natures. And we've come through and we've come over and we just started the Aquarian age, which is 2,054 years long. And we'll hit the Capricorn age, which is 1,900 and some years long. So we got 4,000 years to progress through the imprinting. And don't think that you are going to do it overnight. But we do have an angel in our midst who is revealing to us the churches are over. Everything you read in this Bible was in the church. Now, if you're going to read this, if you're going to read Genesis, personalize it. The serpent is you. Eve is you. Adam is you. Cain is you. Abel is you. Noah is you. You keep going right on down. All of those ladies, all of those women, all of those men, you're the holy thing now. You are the holy thing. Moses is you, Balaam is you, Korah is you, Dathan is you, Caleb is you. It's all you. Stop placing it out here. It is all you. John the Baptist is you. Jesus is you. Judas is you. Just keep going through. Every one of those popes that slaughtered 68 million Christians was you. Every one of those slaughtered Christians was you. All of it is you. All of those scriptures, everything, it's all you. When you read, if you read the things that Paul wrote, stop thinking about the Corinthian church and the Philippian church and the Ephesian church and the Colossian church. Stop thinking about that. Read it as a personal letter to you. and apply it to how you, if you take it and you condemn yourself with it, you're reading it wrong. If you take it and you look at it and you see the parts of you that need work, and you see the parts of you that are righteous and holy and they're in their proper position, and you begin to work through intercession, through love, through peace, and you begin to put it all together, you can read Ephesians, you can read Revelations, you can read them all, and they will help you. But if you read them any other way, that you're going to have the most condemned life you've ever felt if you read that Bible in such a manner as we used to read it in the churches. This angel is testifying to you. All those things were in the churches. They are finished. They are done. We are in a brand new day, a personal day, a micro day. Amen. Raw. Amen. I know I went through a lot. Go away and think about it. And is there anything, when we're talking about the whole personal side of it, how do you read this Bible? How do you read yourself? If you can't read yourself as darkness and light, you're reading yourself wrong. You have them both. Anything?
No.
Amen.
That's good.
We'll come back on Friday night. Now Friday night we do discussion. 8 p.m. Friday night. We will be back in here. We'll have our little dinner. We'll get ourselves in proper order. We'll be ready to run, fuss, and complain. We'll do it all. So Friday night, 8 p.m. We will be back, and it will be discussion more. I usually don't bring a whole lot to the Friday night sessions. We just walk in here, and it's Alan, it's Aubrey, it's Connie, it's Daniel, it's me, it's Patty, and whoever else shows up, Joe sometimes, all the different ones that Japan. It's all of us. Friday night is a discussion, and we'll try and bring things out that help and are a great help to all of us. So I hope this has been a help to you. A lot of this is so much deeper to me now than it was when I brought it out just a few years ago, because we spiral back around and we have all these 4 or 5 years of experience in us.
Yeah.
So it is just a beautiful thing to us now. No one is condemned. If you can see this, everyone is free. There is therefore now no condemnation to them who are in Christ Jesus. We were justified, we were sanctified, we come through the overflowing of the baptism from the inside out. We became the Word, and we are holy, pure, spotless, without blemish. We are now not a husband, not a wife, not a male, not a female. We are that holy thing. Don't know what to call it, really. It's
Seems
eternal.
good.
Holy thing. That's what we are.
Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be.
Speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
Let it be, let it be,
Let it be, let it be. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Amen.
Simple as that.
That's what it is. We thank you, all of you, for what we've come to, the understanding. And we stand here in the authority of Christ, calling things to be. William Branham talked about things that are to be. We are calling things to be, not are to be. We stand in the authority of Christ. We call for the healing. We call for the bodies. We call for you out there. We call for the financial needs. We call for all these things as we stand here, trusting that it will come to pass. We know it will, in the Spirit of Christ. Thank you.
It's good.
It's been a while since I talked on that,
It's good.
but I love it.
I had never heard it put that way. I mean, I've been really ignorant, but
I'll get those CDs out of the car.